Good evening, folks. Welcome to our Fall 23 Special Olympics Maryland Unified Flag Football Preseason Coaches Meeting. We will now be holding these coaches meetings before every sports season to get coaches a little bit more information, just to have some tips and tricks, some reminders, so on and so forth out there. Coaches still do need to attend their district-based coaches meeting, but we want to offer these as an additional option for you to join to ask questions, watch, read through the slides, whatever you need to do to get yourself as much information in your toolkit as you can to help your student athletes prepare for the season. Especially with flag football being our first year this year, we want to make sure you're equipped to help them. First up, Plunge is already set. Cool Schools Plunge is Thursday, February 1st, 2024. If you have questions, reach out to Jessie Hayes, who is in charge of our development department. She can get you answers. You can go on and register today. You can sign up your team, and you can already start fundraising if you are ready to go. Additionally, IUS, which is Interscholastic Unified Sports, is part of the Unified Champion Schools overall program that we offer. You guys are obviously watching this and already doing inclusive sports and activity through IUS. You might be doing Unified Phys Ed, you might be doing Young Athletes program. Your schools may be doing a bunch of sports-based stuff. We're working to get more schools involved in the whole school engagement and youth leadership aspects. That includes having team captains on every team, which we hope you guys have, having pep rallies for your unified sports, just like your varsity sports, so on and so forth. There is a state banner recognition program that can recognize your program for doing these things and being a unified champion school. There's a national banner recognition program, so on and so forth. If you have questions, go to this QR code or go to the website or reach out to Melissa Kelly. She can get you more information about the overall program. The game plan for tonight, it's going to be similar to how we run our preseason district rep meeting with some more specific information targeted towards you guys. We'll do a quick introduction of who is part of the Unified Flag Football team facilitating the sports season and state tournament. We'll talk about some forms. We'll talk about some admin stuff. We'll hit on COMAR really quick, but then we'll also hit some football sports-specific stuff as well. Our sports chair is Meredith Tarkenton. If any of your programs did track and field last year, you will know Meredith. She is back. She is taking over flag football as well. So hopefully her and Katie Turner will be our two sports chairs season in and season out. If you need to get a hold of Meredith, that is her email. That is her cell phone number. She'll be contacting your district reps throughout the season. If you have a question, most district reps prefer that you reach out to them first and they will pass along any questions, whatever you may have, to us through them because they just want to know and be in the loop so they can help support you. They may even be able to answer the question before we can. So again, if you need Meredith's information, it's here. This is me. If you have not met me yet, you might be a new coach, but I've been around a few years, so I know most of you. That is my adventure cat. He likes to hike. He walks on a leash. He drinks coffee and does all sorts of weird things. So thought I'd add him in so you could see him as well. Here are the district rep contacts for all the districts in Special Olympics Unified Sports. For the fall, Anne Arundel rotates through some of their people. Tim Stedman is their contact for tennis. And we are still looking for a contact on the Upper Shore. Until then, I will be the direct contact as the district rep for the Upper Shore programs. This is the fall lineup of who's doing what sports. Currently listed for flag football are District 1, Allegheny Garrett counties. District 3, not all of District 3, which is Frederick, but Maryland School for the Deaf will be joining us. Baltimore City is going to start recreationally this year since we are in a demo year and it's not fully an official state level unified sport. And then the Upper Shore counties are planning to join us as well. Let's talk forms and registration. This is stuff that you guys should know. Nothing has really changed year in and year out, but we want to go through this just as a reminder. This is the main student athlete form, the application for participation. Student athletes have to do this every year. If you have somebody that's returning from last year, that's great. We're excited to have them back, but they do need to fill out a new one this year. Again, sometimes the forms can get updated. Reach out to your district reps if you don't have it. If not, it is on our Flag Football Unified website. This may be the most important form for us to really keep the season rolling from a sports and planning aspect. The team roster declaration is that initial roster that you need to turn into your district reps that has everyone that's participating on your team on it, all your student athletes, all your non-student athletes, which are coaches and paraprofessionals and student managers and so on and so forth, need to be on this form. This top section here of this form is where your non-student athletes go. Those are your coaches, your paraprofessionals, your student managers, blah, 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 blah. It could be a really engaged athletic director or something, whatever. If you have anybody that's participating on your team, that may be contributing to your team, that may be going with your team to the state tournaments and needs to be credentialed, so they'll be in the competition area, they should be in the top of this section. They also then need to do the forms for the non-student athletes, which we'll get to. Your student athletes go in the second section, identifying what their role is. Do remember that Unified Partner IEP 504s, we want you to designate those individuals. Those are individuals that have a IEP 504 that may not have an intellectual disability. Once you identify them, they can count on your roster as either an athlete or a partner in your ratio as needed, but we just need a heads up at some point during the season which role they're going to fulfill. This is our COVID form. Again, for the most part, people have the sense that COVID has bypassed. Again, it's still kind of out there. People are picking it up every now and then. It says COVID-19 on it, but it's going to be a forever form from Special Olympics International, because who knows when the next COVID or whatever is coming down the line. We need to do this for risk management purposes. The nice thing about this form is if you have anybody returning, whether it's you as a coach, whether it's a paraprofessional, whether it's one of your student athletes, if they have done this before, they do not need to do this again. This is a one and done form as far as we're concerned. If you want to double down and make sure your student athletes are doing the paperwork and make sure they have everything, which would be the application of participation and our CDW COVID form, feel free to have them do it again. Again, it's essentially one page that parents need to sign off of. And if you feel better getting it multiple times, we will take it multiple times. Class A clearance, this is for your non-student athletes. This is your coaches. This is your paraprofessionals. This is your assistant coaches. This is your student managers. This is your really involved athletic director. This is whatever it may be. If you have somebody that is a special education teacher that acts kind of as a team mom that travels with you guys, they need to do these forms. You can go on our website and you can turn in the volunteer background and application form. You can do the protective behaviors training. You can do the COVID form and turn them in via email. It is tremendously easier to use our volunteer hub site, log in and update your stuff, or create a login and it will take you step by step through what you need. It'll prompt you to do the volunteer application / background check. Or if you're have a student that is operating as a manager and they're under 18, they'll do a reference form. It'll then prompt you to do the protective behaviors training, which is about 10 to 15 minutes with a little quiz after it. And then it'll ask you to sign off on the COVID form. That's it. Probably takes you all in all 30 to 40 minutes. Highly, highly, highly recommend that you do it through Volunteer Hub because it's a lot easier. Some admin stuff. Just because you're attending this or watching this training does not mean that you do not have to go to your district's scheduled coaches meeting. Especially with flag football being in its first year, we are doing mandatory coaches trainings to get you guys on the field to talk through flag football with you, talk about rules, talk about how to train your athletes, talk about drills to put them through, talk about expectations of the field of play, walk through the skills drills with you guys. All that kind of stuff we are going to do on field, but we wanted to offer this as a virtual secondary option to get some additional information. Some good information for you. November 9th, 2023, that is a Thursday. We will have our pre-competition webinar for teams going to the state tournament. Good news is, if you are a team participating in flag football this year, our plan is to take everyone that participates and bring them to the state tournament. The state tournament / culminating event will be at Middle Branch Recreation Center. It's in Baltimore. It's a brand new turf field. If for some reason we can't use a turf field, they got 3 more grass football fields, whatever it may be. We're going to have plenty of field access, brand new facility, awesome location in Baltimore. Here's our flag football site. On our flag football site, you will find paperwork that you need to access as coaches. Most of the stuff on there is access to the roster form and the assessment form and all that kind of stuff that you need as coaches. We do have the links for all the paperwork stuff on the main IUS page, where it also links to every sport page. So again, if you need that link, we will send it out in the follow-up email as well. Just a heads up, if you go on to Special Olympics Maryland on our website and go to the coach resource page, there's all sorts of additional other resources that you can access as a coach. Additionally, if you go to Special Olympics International, their website, which is just specialolympics.org, there's a bunch of stuff that you can find out there as well that are some really good resources. One of them is this quick reference guide that we like to reference to our coaches. We actually go through it relatively thoroughly in our Coaching Special Olympics Athletes training for new coaches that join our community program. There's a lot of tips and tricks on working with athletes if you are more of a sports person than a special education or APE teacher. It's a really good resource. Additionally, another shout out for a resource that I would like to make is there is a website called CoachTube. CoachTube has a lot of good free trainings. There's some paid trainings on there. If you are looking for tips and tricks on flag football, they have some good stuff on there too. Some good drills and other things that you can do to coach your athletes. Last thing I will plug for coach education resources is NFHS offers a free Special Olympics online course called Coaching Unified Sports. If you have not taken that before, or if you have new new unified partners, or anybody joining a program that's new, quite honestly, that wants to learn about unified sports, about 50 minutes to an hour for a training, and it's a really good training to sit down and sit through. Again, Coaching Unified Sports, it's on the NFHS, National Federation of High School Sports website. Free, have at it. Let's talk assessments. Most of you are returning coaches that have experience with tennis. Assessments aren't something new to you. The way we do assessments for flag football is similar to tennis, but a little bit different as well. So let's talk about them. Assessment day dates will be given to you in your preseason meeting with your district rep. I don't have them. When I do, I plan to be at them. But talk to your district rep about what your day is going to be for assessments. Some tips and planning things to help assessment days go smoother when we get there. 1, prep your unified teammates, athletes, partners to be able to play shorter scrimmage situations. We're not going to play full games. Maybe we play a quarter or half or whatever it may be, but we're going to get your teams on offense and defense a few times to see how people play. It'll give us a better idea of how they move, how they catch the ball, how they throw the ball, how they run the ball, so on and so forth. And that's how we'll do our assessment in the team atmosphere. Make a consideration that players, like in tennis, which might be one of the biggest things we see in tennis, actually, they're going to get better over the course of the season, right? So, if we're talking about rating them a 3 in catching, they're doing okay. They catch most of their passes, and you look at that and go, you know what? Jimmy's going to be catching everything by the end of the season. Once he's a little bit more confident, we should put him at a 4 or a 5. That's great information for us to know. You truly know your athletes better than we may, just because you see them on a day-to-day basis, know their skill set and their personalities a little bit better. Anybody that's going to be participating in skills, athletes or unified partners, be ready to do the skill stations. Again, they're passing, catching, running, those kind of things. We'll talk about the skills in a later slide. Team assessment form. Essentially, you can even do it yourself before assessments, or you could do it after assessments and let us know if you feel like there's an updated assessment to it. But for the most part, it gives us a rating of the team's ability overall, just to give us an idea so we can division them in the right divisions and match them up against the best teams. We want to put them in good situations to have good flag football experiences and play similar teams. Now, that's not to say that every team's going to match up perfectly. As we do and venture into more team sports like this, potentially for unified sports, there's a chance that it could be just like any other varsity football game where one week a team goes out, plays a great game, wins. Next week they go out and they put up 3 points total, so it could be one of those things too. Team sports are a little bit more volatile week to week, player to player than, a doubles pair of tennis. Once we have the assessment done, it essentially establishes your competition roster for the year. Again, things happen, tweaks are made. Just like tennis, we'll have conversations and work with your district rep if there's changes prior to your district tour. Here's the first page of the assessment form. This is more of the roster page of the assessment form. For the most part, we like to have the age on there. More of a thing that the community program does. I left it on our sheet. It helps, but it's not necessary. You can see there are 3 gray boxes, and that's specifically for your folks that'll play quarterback. You don't have to do passing assessments on anybody that's not playing quarterback. There are very, very, very few flag football situations where anybody besides the quarterback are throwing. Not to say that there aren't, but it is true. So again, this is what it's going to look like. We'll work with you guys. We're going to teach you guys how to do assessments at your preseason coaches meeting and at the assessment days. This is what the assessment form looks like and how we're rating individuals. For the most part, it should look pretty similar to what you've seen for tennis. Again, for tennis, it's forehand, backhand. Are they hitting most of the balls forehand? Great, it's a 4. Well, same thing for this. It's about consistency. It's about their understanding of the game. Again, it's about their ability to move and so on and so forth. Unlike tennis, where we have a threshold of 5 or under is a skills player, for this first year, we're not going to set a minimum threshold to push somebody into skills, and we're not going to set a maximum to keep anyone out of skills. If you have athletes that you think are potentially lower skilled players, but you can incorporate in the team setting on the field, absolutely go ahead and do that. We'll talk about that in the coaches meeting as well. If you have somebody that's a higher skilled athlete or partner, quite honestly, that you think potentially needs a year or 2 in skills, or the full field game may be too much for them right out the gate, they're welcome in skills too. We'll talk about the skills format. Questions on assessments. I forgot to mention questions in chat. You can raise your hand to be unmuted to ask questions. I've gotten so in the groove of doing Zoom meetings that now I forget to do that and mention that up front. So questions across the board when it comes to assessments. Nothing in chat. I don't see any hands. Again, I understand this is going to be a lot of information coming at you guys. The first year of flag football, most people are just absorbing. If there's questions after this, feel free to email me. I will send out a follow-up email to district reps to distribute the re-recording of the video and the slides. When they send that, feel free to reach out and ask questions. All right, we're going to talk about coaches training and just overall flag football stuff, again, because it's such a new sport for us. We offer 2 formats of flag football for unified sports. 5v5 team play, which is our standard flag football team play. And then we offer unified team skills play. Unified team skills play is a variation of our high-level skills that the community program offers. We're offering it as a unified team aspect, and we'll get into those details as we go along here. Roster sizes for 5v5, minimum of 8 unified teammates, maximum of 12. We don't have any specific ratio of anything between that 8 to 12 that you have to have athletes to unified partners. Just remember that for 5v5, you can have 2 unified partners on the field and 3 athletes on the field. So typically for that minimum of 8, you're shooting for like 4 athletes, 4 unified partners, so you can have substitutions. For that 12, 6 and 6 is great. We understand if somebody has a team of 4 athletes and 8 unified partners. We get it. You're just going to have to be very particular in that situation of how you rotate your unified partners, knowing that only 2 get on the field at a time. Unified skills team play. Essentially, it can be a minimum of 2 or a maximum of 8. When we say 2, it needs to be at least 1 athlete and 1 unified partner, which equals 1 pair. And the maximum of 8 can be up to 4 pairs. You can see how that goes. When we division unified team skills play, we will division them both by size of the unified skills team and their qualifying scores that they submit from their district tournament. So here, let's talk about unified skills and how it works. Again, this is something new that we're trying. We're exploring this for the first time. So we've developed the process. I've talked to the district reps. This is what we're going to go forward with. And it could change. It could be different next year. Again, this is why we have a demo season to test things out, get your student athletes a good experience. But there might be things we tweak as we go. So again, your roster minimum is 2, while the maximum is 8. A team must be comprised of pairs of unified partners and athletes. So the example is my team potentially has 6 participants, 3 athletes, 3 unified partners. I'm going to pair them up at the beginning of the year to work together, learning the skill station based on their ability level off the assessment. Then those people that we pair up, the athlete and partners, we want them working together throughout the year to encourage each other and learn the strengths and weaknesses so they can help one another with the skill stations. The skill stations are 40-yard dash. You can do that with a wheelchair. You can do it with a walker. If we need to do it assisted, let me know. I can see about if somebody needs to have somebody walking with them, unified partner, whatever it may be. Reach out, ask me. But for the most part, folks can do it. Typical 40-yard dash. It's on turf, so it should be doable, no problem, in a wheelchair. A walker as well. Target pass. It's throwing for accuracy. Dummies are set up in the field, and you throw X number of passes. The nice thing is I tend to see more success in flag football skills where you have somebody that can consistently throw to the shortest target and maximize that number of points, where we have athletes who want to throw it to the furthest one, never hit it, and get 0 points instead. So again, maximizing the accuracy is the emphasis for target pass. Throwing for distance, that one's just a good old heave-ho, chuck it and let it go. Again, regardless of the distance, student athletes do get points for that. They have different ranges of what they get points for depending on how far they throw it. Flag pulling, it's another one that is doable for wheelchairs, athletes, and walkers, no matter who it is. Essentially, we have flag belts that are put on these dummies that we have, and you need to go from 1 to 2 to 3 and pull the flags in a certain amount of time. Whatever your time is, you get X number of points. Excuse me. Last one is pass catching. There are multiple options for routes. You do the route, you catch the football. When you catch it successfully, you get X number of points. Again, we will go over all of these at your preseason coaches meeting. If you have not seen what our field structure looks like, here it is. It is a 60-yard field and it is 25 yards wide. We typically get 3 of these on a traditional football field next to each other with room in between for scorers tables and such. The unique thing that you will see, essentially, if you've ever experienced NERSA college intramural football, we run the same thing, except 5 yards prior to each end zone and then 5 yards prior to the midfield line is a no run zone. You have to throw it at that point. If you are, 6 yards away from the end zone or the midfield line, you're still welcome to run it. But if you are inside on your side going over either the goal line or the midfield line, you do have to throw the ball. What it's for essentially is to take away collisions of people being too aggressive trying to run the ball. Somebody that used to referee flag football, and I still do for our community program at times, and when I used to referee for intramural sports, when you don't have these, you have athletes that are trying to jam the ball for the first down or the end zone. Even if you're not having people bumping together and bumping heads or falling down or whatever it is, sometimes you're jamming fingers, jamming a football across the line. It's kind of ugly at times. So these no run zones are unique to Special Olympics flag football, but I think they're a really, really good safety precaution that is a good investment for the game. We're going to talk some rules and gameplay stuff. When it comes to timing, we have two 20-minute halves with a running clock. Last minute of each half is it's a stoppage play clock. So if you're under a minute and the ball is not caught or it goes out of bounds, it's a dead ball and the clock stops. Think of college football, NFL under 2 minutes. Clock stops for incompletions, any dead ball, whatever. Scoring. Essentially, you score a touchdown, you get 6 points. Same normal thing. We do not kick field goals, so you do have to go for 1 or 2 extra points. 1 point is from the 6-yard line. 2 points, not 20 points. I will fix that before I send that out to you. 2 points is from the 12-yard line. Again, these are all things we're going to go over in your coaches meeting, but we wanted to get you documented information on the front end. Overtime. The best way to explain this is essentially we do a semi-modified version of college football overtime where you can technically have multiple overtimes. It's not the NFL where whoever scores first wins. Kinda is at a certain point, but let's talk about it now. Essentially, we flip the coin for possession, just like any other overtime. Essentially, both teams will get a possession to try to score. Whichever team scores and then fails to score potentially wins, or if there's a situation where both teams don't score, we'll determine it with whoever got closer to the end zone, aka essentially how many yards were gained. If for some reason we have a situation where team one goes, they score, they go for 1 point, then great. They have 7 points. The next team gets the ball. They go, they score, they go for 1 point, they get the 1 point. We'll do the multiple overtime thing. From my experience with Special Olympics flag football, for the most part, you essentially either get in and score and the other team doesn't, or we go based on who got what more yardage. Very, very few times have I seen it go into multiple overtimes. But we will continue to go over this. We will remind you at the competition webinar in November as well how overtime works. When it comes to running the ball, first bullet point is quarterback can't run the ball. No matter who your quarterback is, they just can't run the ball. Ball carriers must make an effort to avoid defenders with established position. You can't run people over. You can spin. Spinning is fine. Can't flag guard where you're blocking people from taking your flag, so on and so forth. We'll get into those details, but for the most part, you can't do that. No run zone. Any ball snapped on or in these zones must be passed. So again, review of running the ball. Quarterback can't run. Ball carriers must make an effort to avoid people if they have established ground. We don't want people getting run over. And then no run zone, you have to throw the ball if you start in or directly on the no run zone. Passing and receiving. If a player steps out of bounds, they can't come back in and catch the ball. That's illegal touching standard football procedures. Here's a note that's really important. Unified partners cannot throw passes to other unified partners. So, you got to remind your unified partners, if you have unified partners that come out with their friends, They can't be just throwing deep balls the whole time to each other. It's a give it up down essentially. If they throw the ball gets reset at the yard line of which the snap started. Dead down, you go to second down, you go to third down, whatever it may be, whatever the next down is. Here's a note, should be able to figure out relatively quickly, but athletes can distribute the ball to anyone. They are the most optimal quarterback situation that you can have. So if you can find an athlete that is a pretty good communicator, that is good at distributing the ball, making decisions and stuff like that, they are by far the most optimal quarterback that you can have. You can have a unified partner quarterback, though. There's nothing wrong with that. Our community program has both. We have community program teams where we have really high skill athletes that are awesome quarterbacks, distribute the ball, really high quality flag football teams. We have community teams that have quarterbacks that aren't as high ability, and they run crushing mesh concepts for passes all the time, and they run the ball like nobody's business. All of those are options, and you can have a unified partner if you want, but just remember, unified partners cannot throw to other unified partners. Screen blocking. You are allowed to screen block. You are allowed to block in general. It just needs to be a basketball pick. You can move, though, unless you're moving into a section where you're going to create contact. Again, it's hard to explain this without a visual in a coach's training here. We will cover this stuff at your in-person coach's training, though. Not going to go through all the penalties. All the typical penalties that apply for typical football apply here, except for targeting. If we have a targeting call, we're going to have way more than just a penalty. So hopefully no targeting, please. Updates from 2021 that may not be updates to you. They're just going to be normal rules, but I put them in here as reminders that they came in play 2021. Running the ball, they can spin with the ball to avoid defenders. Again, they can't flag guard though, so they have to have the ball up close to their chest. So while they spin, they can pull the flag still. Again, screen blocking, there's no limit on steps, but the blocker must beat the defender to the spot. If not, the defender has the right of way to go after the ball carrier. Minimal contact there if done correctly. If you need tips and tricks for football drills or ideas for training, email your district rep, email Meredith, email me. We have a lot of good resources. Like I said, go on CoachTube. There's a lot of good resources. Additionally, at your coach's in-person training, like I've said 1,000 times, we will show you this stuff. We have some really good drills and drills that also not only teach your athletes the sport, but are engaging from start to finish, so they're not just standing in line, because we know that's not super fun. I'm going to pause. I just threw a ton of flag football information at you. Is there any questions about how we play the game, how we facilitate teams, team roster, maximum, minimum, so on and so forth? Okay. Not seeing anything. Again, I totally understand. There's a lot of info coming at you. Something else we wanted to cover in this preseason coaches meeting. There was some confusion on how protests work during our state tournaments and our procedures for that. We're going to quickly go through. I don't expect you to have them memorized. These slides could be really good for you to print out to have as a coach. And we will answer questions on these whenever you have them. Long story short, a protest is a documented process that the head coach can file at a state tournament or at a district tournament to essentially protect your athletes from unfair practices of play. Some protestable situations that we like to throw out there is a rules error by the official, not a judgment call, a rules error by an official, a misrecording of a score, somebody missed a touchdown or extra point or something. Maximum effort rule doesn't apply to this, applies to track and field more than anything, in strength conditioning. Coaching outside of the coach's area, if a coach is on the field all the time coaching when they shouldn't be, those kind of things. If there is a pass interference call that you don't like, that is a judgment's official call. We won't mess with that. We have highly trained officials that come in from Towson University and University of Maryland to officiate our games. We all know that every official is human. Nobody's perfect, but their call is their call, and we support our officials in making their calls. Protest procedures. Essentially, the main thing is these top 1.5 bullets here that we want you to know. Protests can be filed at the competition venue control center. We always have a big tent, or we're located somewhere. You check in at the control center as a head coach. Within 15 minutes of posted results or the game finishing, if you have a game that finishes, that you have something that you want to protest, do not sign the sheet at the end with your score on it that the official asked you to sign. When you sign the match sheet, that means that competition is over and final. The score is final. Decisions are final. So again, if you have an issue that's happened in your game, if you have a assistant coach or somebody, you can come get one of us during the game, send them over, say, hey, we need you to come check this out. Could be a protestable situation. If the game finishes and you have a protestable situation and you'd like to file a protest, do not sign the match sheet. If you have an official that's confused and says, hey, you have to sign the match sheet before you go, tell them, hey, I'm considering filing a protest. If I sign it, the match sheet is, complete. If you want, come with me to the control center, and then we'll, the SOMD staff will explain it to you that, hey, I'm not signing it because of X, Y, or Z. Second line is essentially only head coaches can file protests. No athletes, no unified partners, no assistant coaches, no athletic directors, no grandma coming out of the stands. Head coaches are the only ones that can file a protest. Again, if it's something that you're protesting that is an official judgment call of, pass interference on a play, or they didn't get in the end zone for a touchdown or a extra point attempt. Those are judgment calls. We will automatically deny protest on that because we support our officials. If there's something that continuously tends to be an issue that you see, bring it up to us ASAP. We'll take a look at it. We will have a conversation with those officials if we need to fix something in the way they're calling something, so on and so forth, though. You have to properly complete the form. It's on NCR paper. You get a copy. We get a copy. Everybody gets a copy. And then if you have a protest denied, because it's still a protestable situation, but we decide that we deny it because of X, Y, or Z reasons, you can file an appeal, which is essentially filling out another protest form saying, I'm appealing the initial protest with the decision of X because of Y and Z reasons. When you do that, typically we will get a crew together via Zoom after the event within 24 hours. Sometimes it's 48 hours, depending on how busy / tired I am. But for the most part, we will get that done and get back to you on your appeal. Questions before we hit Comar stuff. Again, use protests to protect your athletes, protect your team. We want the best experience for them. That's why that situation exists. Cool. Not seeing anything. Comar stuff. Going to keep this short, sweet, and simple on Comar. Special Olympics does not enforce Comar. We recognize and do our best to keep an eye out for Comar violations through MPSSAA because we want to make sure not only are our athletes getting the best experience, but your student athletes across sports are doing the right thing so they don't get a violation, your school doesn't get a violation, and so on and so forth. With that said, every district may handle Comar a wee bit different. So if you have any Comar questions on, I have a student athlete that wants to do, they're a freshman and they want to do tennis for unified sports in the fall. They've never played varsity before. Does that hurt their eligibility for varsity via Comar? Blah, 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 blah. Ask that to your district rep because it's a little bit different in every district. I do know that some districts are now having waivers for student athletes to participate in multiple sports in a season. Ain't nothing that we regulate or do. Again, we only allow schools to do one sport or the other. But if you have a district that does flag football, and then you have a student athlete that signs a waiver in a district that's applicable to, and they also play soccer in the fall, That's up to your district. Again, talk to your district reps or your athletic supervisors or athletic directors. Uniforms. For the most part, while you're entering a new sport for flag football, uniform stuff hasn't changed. Uniform specs is every uniform for unified sports needs to have that Special Olympics unified sports little pill on the chest, like where it is on my polo right now. It can be on the sleeve. It can be on the back of the neck. It has to have it on there. We have it in the Google folder. We have it on our website. If you have questions with the pill logo on the uniform, ask your district rep, ask us. We'll take care of you guys. When it comes to uniforms for flag football specifically, what it comes down to is just like any other sport, just like tennis or indoor bocce or whatever, you need to have matching tops. They can be football jerseys. They can be Under Armour t-shirts. They can be regular cotton t-shirts. They can be long sleeve. They can be short sleeve. Whatever. It can be, the design is up to you. They just need to be consistent across the board. They need to have your school name on it, and they need to have that unified sports logo. Again, they just need to be the same across the board. When it comes to bottoms, this is the biggest thing that we have issues with uniforms 99.9% of the time. They need to be some sort of single color bottom that are shorts, athletic pants, or sweats. And they don't have to be the same exact brand. If your school distributes, Fort Hill High School uniforms that have specific tops and Fort Hill High School on the bottoms, awesome, great. If your school doesn't do that and you're just going to say our uniform tops are black, we want everybody wearing black shorts or black sweatpants, that's fine. They can go get black shorts or black sweatpants from Walmart or Target or Old Navy or wherever they want to get them from. The only thing they cannot have on them when it comes to shorts and athletic pants and stuff are large logos that are not of your high school. They can't have big Under Armour logos on them. They can't have the Maryland flag design on them. They can't have a giant Ravens logo on them. They can't have their name written down the side unless, I guess, that's their school uniform. But that's the main thing when it comes to bottoms. Additionally, no leggings. We've said that forever. That's always been the case. And the last thing that I will put in here that is a no for lower bottoms, no jeans. We've seen people show up in jeans, and people should know better at this point. You can't play sports in jeans. With that said, if people are showing up in wrong uniforms, we are going to start sitting people. If you come to the state tournament that you don't have matching shirts, if somebody doesn't have the right pants, they're a different color, they are jeans, they are leggings, whatever they are, we will not let that participant play. We are definitely cracking down on that after being relatively lenient to be nice in past years, but we are cracking down for sure. With that said, if you have an issue with uniforms, reach out, let us know. We will do our best to work with you. Also communicate with your athletic directors as well. So for flag football, we do have some uniform requirement stuff that is atypical from tennis and bocce and track and field and so on and so forth. Things that are required that are typically, well, not all of these are provided by the school. The flag belts, typically provided by the school, need to be the ones where the flags are all sewn onto the belt and you rip the whole belt off. We're not doing the one with the individual flags that you rip off. You have to rip off the full belt. Everyone on the field of play has to wear a mouthpiece. This does not include skills, but they're welcome to. Anybody playing 5v5 unified flag football must have a mouthpiece in. It can be a fancy mouthpiece. It can be one of the over-the-lips ones. It can be a cheap dollar mouthpiece. Whatever it is, they need to have some sort of mouthpiece. And we absolutely prefer that it is molded to their teeth as well. If you have just a plain unmolded mouthpiece in while you're playing, it's better than nothing, but it doesn't help when it comes to if you take a bump or a fall or something like that. It doesn't protect you as well. Cleats. If we are on a grass field, 110% cleats. No athletic shoes or sneakers. If we are on turf, you can wear cleats or you can wear turf shoes or whatever it may be. Still, we don't want people wearing sneakers on turf because that can get slick as well. One note on the cleats, no metal. They have to be plastic bottoms. Again, most cleats are plastic bottoms. Occasionally, you will see somebody buy the wrong cleat, and it's like a baseball cleat where they have those flat metal pieces on the bottom. I have a scar on the side of my nose that you probably can't see because it's a slideshow from high school. I took one of those cleats to the face through a face mask. Not fun. So please, no metal cleats. School uniforms, again, we went over that. Those are the required things. The things that are optionals are gloves, wrist coaches. If you want to put your plays on a wrist coach and everybody has one or your quarterback has one, that's fine. Absolutely optional. If somebody needs to wear protective glasses or sunglasses because it's a sunny day to protect their eyes, that's fine. We get it. The other thing that I didn't put on here because you're starting to see it a little bit more in like high level 77 high school tournaments and stuff like that are the battle guardian caps. Essentially, the NFL started wearing guardian caps on top of their helmets, but there are also guardian caps made by a company named Battle that go directly on your head. If you have individuals that are concerned about still bumping heads during flag football, not a bad investment. I think they range somewhere between 40 and like $60, coming different size, different colors. If you get them, please recommend highly that they match your school uniform. We really don't want people with battle caps that are on a red and black team that's wearing a Looney Tunes battle cap. If they happen to get it, we'll figure it out. But again, try to match things with your uniform. Same thing goes for if they're wearing long sleeves underneath or something like that. Make sure they are wearing them that they're all the same color. If you want to tell people on your team that, hey, if you want to wear something underneath, it has to be black, done. Perfect. Last note on equipment is no hoodies. If they're going to wear a sweatshirt or hoodie under their uniform, they have to tuck the hood in and it has to stay in. No hoodies with hoods out because it's a choking hazard in case somebody accidentally grabs it. Again, this is talking about uniform disqualification. If your students don't show up in the right uniform, they may be sitting. Again, if they come in jeans, they come in the wrong colored shorts. If you don't have shorts or sweatpants or whatever it may be to remedy that on site, they're going to be sitting for the day, and we're definitely going to be making sure we do that for this fall season. If you need uniforms, if you need assistance with uniforms, step one, talk to your athletic directors or your supervisor of athletics. Most schools have everybody in a rotation for uniforms. Reach out, especially with it being a new year. If you have unified sports uniforms for your bocce team and their t-shirts with your school and the unified sports logo on it, wear them for flag football. That's fine. You don't need a football jersey. They do need to have numbers on them. So we do need to have numbers on them. If you got to tape them on, we can live with that for the first year. We can understand that. But again, talk to your athletic directors and supervisors of athletics for uniforms. If for some reason you have a big uniform need and your district athletic director can't handle it, or there's an issue or whatever it may be, then reach out to your district rep and they'll reach out to us and they'll see what we can do. Again, uniforms, main thing is they match, have the team or / school name on it, has numbers, has the unified sports pill on it. Questions on uniforms, again, usually the same deal as every other unified sport. Okay, I think we're at the end here. It is. We're at the Q&A section. I will pause for questions. I know there's just been a lot thrown at you tonight, so I understand we don't have a ton of questions. And if you want to follow up via email at a later date with questions as they roll in. But we'll open it up for questions. Raise your hand for opening lines. Put it in the chat. All right. Quiet. I understand why it's quiet. A lot of information on the front end. Again, most people are just getting back to school. Some coaches' trainings haven't even happened yet. So I totally get it. With that said, thank you guys for everything. As always, we appreciate everything you guys do. We appreciate everything that you're going to do for this upcoming school year. We recognize that there are some challenges for school on a day-to-day basis. But again, reach out to us if you need anything. Reach out to your district rep. continue to communicate, and we'll get through whatever you guys need, and we're going to have really good flag football season for your student athletes. So again, you can email me, you can email Meredith if you have questions. If not, we will likely see you at your district coaches trainings coming up soon. All right, have a great night.